Hi, welcome back to another episode of the Shine and Thrive Photography Podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Monica, and thanks so much for hanging out with me. Today, I'm going to dive into a story that I want to share that happened to me. I think it was end of May till right now. It's what is it? What is it today? End of June. So yeah, I would say from end of May to the middle of June. This is when this story went down, and pretty much it felt like so many things went quote unquote wrong and became chaotic all at once. And I wanted to share with you how I felt before when I knew everything was going to unfold, and then when I had surprises along the way, and then how I felt after. Because I find that through times like this in life, when everything seems to build up on top of one another, we can grow so much and become so resilient. And as I was learning these lessons along the way, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to share with my podcast listeners about everything that I'm learning and how I'm navigating it, because yeah, it's the school of life, right? We get to learn so much from the things that seem so hard in our lives if we choose that, right? If we choose to look at it as a learning opportunity. So first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to dive into, actually, you know what I'm going to do? I know how I'm going to do it. I was going to first list out everything that went wrong all at the same time, but I think I'm going to tell it more like a story in order of how everything unfolded and happened, and how I was getting myself through it, and then also the lessons that I now come out of it on the other side, and what I felt that I've grown into also. Okay, so it all started when actually it was mid-May. That's what it was, which doesn't matter anyway. It doesn't matter. Details that don't really matter. But just so I can, in my mind, remember the timeline accurately. So it was mid-May 2022. And at that point, Roy and I were new parents to a 3-month-old baby, little Mr. Ben. I like to call him Mr. Ben or Benaroo or Benny or Little Sunshine, all those nicknames that pop up. So we were new parents, and we were supposed to have our bathroom renovated before we had a baby. Pretty much like when I was in my first or second trimester, but that's a whole long story of pretty much how those contractors kept saying, prolonging it another month, and extending it. And then Rory's like, hey, Sarah's in her third trimester. We need to get it done now, or else like we're going to have a baby and a newborn in the house with construction. Like we don't want that to happen. And they ended up ghosting us. It was very, very interesting. And what I ended up doing was using my manifesting skills to find somehow new contractors last minute before I was giving birth, because we were supposed to have our 2 bathrooms renovated. Our like second bathroom upstairs, because we have a 3-bedroom house, and also our ensuite bathroom. So pretty much in my third trimester, I was due March 3rd, and they started the bathroom renovations middle of February. These new contractors, I manifested them. They came to us. Our friends helped find someone. They were great recommendation. They were within our budget, everything. And I'm like, yay, oh my gosh, amazing. But it turned out because they were only available starting mid-February, they would only be able to do 1 bathroom. But I'm like, okay, that's fine. That's still amazing. We can end up doing the other bathroom another time. So it's incredible because they actually ended up finishing our smaller bathroom a day before I gave birth. So literally they finished on the Friday, and then the Saturday night, the following day, I started having contractions. I think it's because I was like so relaxed from that renovation finally being done, because there was so much dust in the house, chaos, all of that. And so I say that part of the story because then we also needed to find time and space for them to do our ensuite bathroom for our bedroom. And initially I'm like, oh, I just don't want to do it with a brand new newborn in the house. And so we decided to wait until May, until Ben was about 3 months old, for us to be able to do that. Because then, it's warmer outside. We can go out for more walks. We can do more things with him, like go to the grandparents. And yeah, there's just more that we could do. We'll be more acclimatized to becoming new parents and knowing how to navigate that. So May was the start date. So I think it was a couple days before the start date of them renovating our ensuite bathroom that we got a call from our really close friends saying that they just had their baby, and the baby came early. I think it was about 2 weeks early or so. And we're like, oh my gosh, congratulations, that's so exciting. Oh my gosh. And they already have another baby boy who is 17 months old. And so, yeah, they gave us the call. We're so excited to meet this little guy. And we're like, that's amazing. And then later that night, we get another call from them. And they basically are in the position where they decided to put their house on the market at that time, just before the due date of the baby, thinking it was going to sell quickly because, you know, how the market has been in Ontario. It's been like everything's been going so quickly. And so they, as soon as they gave birth, as soon as they welcomed their newborn into the world, their house was actually in the middle of all their stuff being moved out, and it was in the middle of staging. So they didn't have a home to go back to because it was in the middle of all that. And they were originally going to go in that meantime to go to their parents' house to stay. But it turned out that one of their parents had COVID. So they couldn't go there with a newborn baby. So we get a call from them asking, hey, is there any chance you two would be able to like host us for the next like week or two? Just until, oh my gosh, wow. Did you hear that? Did you hear what just happened? Came out of my throat. That was so funny. It's like I'm like going through puberty or something. So yeah, they're like, any chance you would be able to like host us? We know it's a big ask. You know, you guys have your baby Ben and all of that. And we have a newborn and a 17-month-old. But we just kind of have nowhere to go. And then Rory and I are like, oh crap, but like our bathroom renovations are about to start in a couple of days. So Rory and I have to move out of our bedroom. We're going to be sleeping and living on a mattress in the nursery. And then we're going to be one bathroom short. Like there's going to be a lot of noise and chaos and dust and all of that. And so we just told them straight up, okay, this is going to happen. And, you know, you're welcome to come, but we're really going to have to figure things out. And to be honest, and I told them this because I'm a very like open and honest person about like my growth journeys and what makes me feel uncomfortable and all that kind of stuff. As I was hearing them asking us this, I was literally pretending to like bash my head against the wall. Like I wasn't actually hitting it. I was just like showing Rory, I'm like, oh my God, I just want to hit my head against the wall because I cannot imagine us having a new baby, going through bathroom renovations that already felt chaotic enough, and then having another baby in the house, a newborn, and then a 17-month-old child and two other humans living in the house. I was just like, that made me so uncomfortable. I felt claustrophobic already. I felt like I couldn't like breathe. I was like, I don't want that. I don't want it. Right. And then obviously, like I had to be like, Sarah, okay, chill out, you only child, you. For those of you that don't know if I'm an only child, I had that reaction, right? And then as I usually do, I was like, okay, now observe your reaction, like what's going on here. And I realized, of course, I was making it about myself, right? I wanted to be comfortable, you know, and which is fair. It's totally fair, right? It's our house. We want to be comfortable, especially through renovations. But then I'm like, I put myself in their shoes. I'm like, I can't even imagine, you know, being at the hospital with this newborn baby, not knowing where to go. I'm like, I know how hard the first like month was like with a newborn. I can't even imagine. And of course, in that moment, boom, I'm like, it's not about me. It's about them. And I want to be there for them. And I don't care how uncomfortable I am. They are way more uncomfortable and they need us right now. So I flipped it like that right away. And then for me to feel more excited about the process, I asked myself, okay, what could this be? Like, how can I make this fun? How can this become an adventure? And I realized that I've always had this like kind of like FOMO that I never got to have roommates because I moved straight out of my parents' house when I was 24 into Rory's place, which is where we are now. And that was like 8 years ago. So I went straight from living with my parents to living with Rory. And I've never experienced like actually living with friends and having those kind of roommates. And even though this would be totally different because there are kids involved and all of that, I just like flipped the script and I was like, you know what? this is going to be it. I'm going to enjoy this. Like we'll never get an opportunity like this to just like live together for a little bit, and we can just all support each other, be there for one another. And one day we'll look back on this and laugh and be like, remember that time we did that crazy thing, you know? So what we ended up doing was we cleared out our basement. We kind of just like moved things around. They were able to have like a mattress down there, a setup, and we even have this little storage room in the basement, which ended up being the perfect size for a playpen to go into for their 17-month-old to sleep in with a sound machine. So it was like this little mini room. So we ended up figuring it out. And yeah, we went for it and we did it. And, you know, they moved in and, you know, it felt chaotic, but I'm like, you know what, let's make this fun. And so throughout the process, their 17-month-old is now, you know, like starting to say words and talking and also becoming, you know, their own human and with like, you know, wanting to say no to things and like screaming here and there, right? So that was a shock to my system because I love, like, I'm a Cancer. I love, like, I'm a homebody. Like, I love everything to be like calm and relaxed and like clear, and that's kind of like my vibe. And here is this like screaming child random times in the day, right? And of course I'm like, totally understand, like it's like you cannot control it, and that's a beautiful thing that it was like confronting me in my face because I totally am a control freak. I know this about me, and I'm consistently practicing to let things flow and just like, you know, go with the flow with things. And yeah, I was just like, okay, it's he's screaming right now, that's okay, but I'm not gonna lie, it totally also drove you crazy. So initially, like, there were like, you know, it was fun, it was so nice connecting, it was nice being there for them. But then there were harder times, like when their little one was screaming, and then, for example, Ben wasn't used to that kind of sound in the house, so he would also start crying, and then there was like 2 crying kids at the same time, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what have we gotten ourselves into? So, but this is all good. It's okay. I knew that I was growing from it. But then get this, freaking out of nowhere, I get a sty in my eye, and I've never really gotten one before. I think I've never, ever gotten one. Whenever people would be like, I have a sty in my eye, I'm like, oh, cool. I've never experienced that. I have no idea. Is it that uncomfortable? Like, I don't know. And then, you know, Roy's like, oh, just make sure to warm compress it and it'll go away. I'm like, okay, fine. It was a little itchy, uncomfortable. I'm like, that's fine. And then I warm compressed it. And then I looked in my other eye a couple days later, and another one was forming in my other eye. And then I like warm compressed my right eye, and then I warm compressed my left eye with that same towel. And he's like, did you just do that with the same towel? He's like, you could have transferred the bacteria. I'm like, oh crap. And then he's like, that's okay, it should be fine. And then out of nowhere, over the next like week, my left eye, the one that had the second sty, started to blow up. If you're following me on Instagram, you saw how it was like blowing up. And I actually didn't even show you the worst of it because I didn't want to freak out my wedding clients, because I wanted to be able to like, I am like someone who, I do not give up. I'm like, I need to be there for my wedding clients. It's like their one day, they booked me, they trusted me, and I will do anything to be there and make it happen. And so I was like doing everything I could to like heal my eye, and I didn't want to like post it online at its worst to freak anyone out. So it was like really big and puffed up and red. My left eye was almost fully closed. It was blurry. I had to go to the doctor and had to get antibiotics, all of that. And I was like, what is going on? We have a new baby that we have to take care of, bathroom renovations, them staying over. Both my eyes are like, they're so itchy. I can't touch them. I can't itch them. My left one is almost closed. I can hardly see. I have weddings coming up. Wedding season is starting. I have a double header. Holy crap. It was so much. And I was just like reminding myself randomly when it got hard. I asked myself, I'm like, what would it look like if it were easy, Sarah? You're in this. You are in this. It could always be worse. So make it easy. What would it look like if it were easy? And I'm like, well, I could just accept it. And instead of complaining, I could just be in action of trying to fix it. So I just stayed very committed to healing my eyes. That was the priority, because I actually was freaked out at one point that I wouldn't be able to like fully document a wedding day. I would need to like bring on a second shooter, or someone else would have to like help me. Like it was bad. So yeah, pretty much I'm so grateful to Rory, because he really freaking stepped up. He like stepped up so much for our friends. He was like making so much like food and cleaning the house. And whenever I had time, and if I wasn't like feeding or working or like helping randomly with cleaning, I hardly did cleaning because I had like so much on the go at that point with like with Ben, my eye, and then I don't even know, it's all a blur. It's just like there's just so much, everything was a mess too in my office, but he stepped up so much. Like whenever I need the extra rest to like put the hot compress on, because if you think about it, it's about 45 minutes to an hour every day that I had to do that. Oh, I remember what else I had. Because I'm still healing from giving birth and being pregnant, I also had to do my physio stuff, and I had to take care of myself, and I had to go to yin yoga as well, so I had to take care of my body as well. So yeah, Rory was a freaking champion, and I couldn't have healed my eyes as quickly without him. So I had to do like antibiotics. I had antibiotic cream to put on there, and I had to do hot compresses. And all this is happening, and at the same time, my freaking office is the dumping ground for everything else that had to be moved for renovations out of the way and moved out of the way for our friends to stay over. So I am literally in my office. If I had to like go through and back up a wedding or quality check a wedding for my editor or my VA and all of that, I was just looking around me and there's mountains of stuff everywhere. I felt so claustrophobic. I didn't have one clear path to walk through my office. I had to always step over things. And I say this so often. I'm like, I love a clean space, a minimal space. I feel like my mind has room to think, to be clear. And I'm sure many of you listening feel the same way too. So on top of that, on top of everything happening, I felt even claustrophobic in my office. And that was very interesting as well. Then, another thing happened. I sprained my knee. All this is happening, and there's another thing that feels like it's going wrong. And it wasn't intense. It wasn't anything bad, but it was enough for me to have to wear a knee brace to like be preventative from it getting worse. And that meant I needed to do even more physio and even more self-care. And then everything was piling even more onto Rory as well. So yeah, it was very interesting. And all of this lasted about 2.5 weeks. 2.5 weeks. And as I was in the thick of it, I had some mantras that really got me through it. And this is what I wanted to share with you. I wanted to share these with you. And I also wanted to share with you how I grew from it. So what I would say to myself when I was like, oh my gosh, I can't take it anymore, or like, this is so hard, right? I was like, nope. If I continue with that script in my mind, it's only going to stay hard. I'm only going to resist it. I'm only going to not be able to take it anymore. It's only going to become more painful and create more suffering for myself. And I always not always, it's impossible to freaking always choose your thoughts, but I, as much as possible, consciously practice and try to be as aware as I can of the thoughts that I'm choosing or the thoughts that are running through my mind. We cannot be 100% conscious. I think the other day I read that we think 35,000 thoughts a day. It's impossible to be that self-aware, right? Of all the thoughts, 100% impossible. But as I'm going through this experience, because I'm so like in it, I know that all of this is happening for me for a reason. And I've already programmed my brain long ago to ask myself, why is this happening for me? What can I learn from this? And so I'm in that constant focus of being self-aware of those thoughts for that particular situation, if that makes sense. So this is what I would tell myself. I would say, you can handle way more than you think you can. And as soon as I would say that, I would be like, yes, like I already have like 8 things that are quote unquote going wrong. And I'm still here. I'm still breathing. I'm still finding so many happy moments throughout the day. By the way, there were happy moments. There were laughs. There were cuddles. There were great conversations with friends, right? There was being there and helping them if they needed something in this like, really intense chapter of their lives as well. So yeah, I would tell myself you can handle way more than you think you can. I would also tell myself if it felt hard, I would say find the gratitude along the way. So again, I got back to I'm like, be grateful that you can spend this quality time with friends, right? Not too long ago it was COVID and this wouldn't have been possible. What else? Be grateful that we're all like healthy and happy. Be grateful that it's summer. Be grateful that you do have an office to still work in, even though you have mountains of crap around you and it feels like you can't focus. Be grateful that you have an office, you have that space to work in. And for example, if I felt like anxious, like I couldn't focus on work, all I would literally do would be like, I can focus right now. It's easy for me to focus. And guess what that would do? Help me focus. All the clutter that was around me in the office didn't matter. It didn't matter because guess what? What you focus on, that's what persists. So if I continued to focus on feeling claustrophobic, that all this stuff was around me, that's how I would continue to feel. But if I focused on the fact that I'm like, I can choose to focus right now, it's easy for me to just focus on my work and just do it. I just have to do it. And that's what happened. It became easy. I didn't feel claustrophobic. Ugh, it's so fascinating. Our minds are so powerful and they can be such a powerful tool for us to use on purpose. Another thing that I would say to myself, or ask myself, what would it look like if it were easy? What thing would I do if it were easy? And it would open up a world of possibilities. So for example, it helped me problem solve in certain situations. So we had this like routine with Ben before our friends came to stay with us for the 2.5 weeks, where every time in the morning when he would wake up, we would go downstairs, put him in his swing, and we would interact with, well, Rory would interact with him and sometimes me. We kind of switch shifts sometimes. And we would interact with him and then he would like nap in his swing for like an hour or so. And this kind of like went out the window because they were downstairs. They had to feed their 17-month-old before taking him to daycare. And that was a little chaotic in the morning because there would be some screaming. And so Ben would be unsettled. And, you know, if I just like focused on, oh, this is so hard, I asked myself, what would it look like if it were easy? So I'm like, okay, why don't we try keeping Ben in the nursery on the bed and we'll just hang out with him on the bed and then we'll let him nap on the bed and we'll just be beside him like reading a book or being on our phone or on our laptop and we'll be there beside him. And guess what? That's what it was. It was easy. We ended up doing that. It ended up becoming a new routine while they were here and it was totally fine. It was totally fine. And one of my favorite mantras that came to me throughout this process that really just feels so embedded in me and it makes me feel so powerful, it makes me feel so much less overwhelmed about things quote unquote going wrong in life. It's this. It's flow like water. Flow like water. Like, you know, when water flows down a river, there's all these rocks and boulders and all those rocks and boulders could be in the way, but the water just flows around them easily underneath, beside all. It's just so beautiful. And that's what I did. I was like, oh, that feels like a little bit of a boulder. That's a big one. That big scream from that baby. Yep, that's a boulder. But I'm like, that's okay. I can put in my headphones. I can go out for a walk. I can choose to meditate with it because in meditation, they teach you to accept the sounds, accept everything that you hear. It isn't good. It isn't bad. It is what it is. And I'm like, well, this is a growth opportunity, you know? So I would just flow like water through these things. And then sometimes it would be like, I would flow up and it would be like a fun, like happy moment, easy moment, and then effortless moment, and then flow to the side. It would feel a little harder. And yeah, so that really, really helped me get through all of that. And it was so interesting because the very last day they were here, you know, the renovations actually ended 4 or so days before they left. So it was nice because we kind of got to experience having them here without that layer of chaos. So as you can imagine, when the renovations were done, the dust was gone. Like, well, Rory freaking cleaned like crazy. It was I'm so grateful for him. We couldn't get cleaners at the right time because they ended the construction 2 days later than when they said that they would. So we had the cleaners booked, and then the cleaners weren't available last minute on the new date change. We couldn't find anyone, so Rory had to end up cleaning all the construction dust. Oh my gosh. So yeah, as soon as that was done, like we had our bedroom back, we had our bathroom back, no dust in the house, more space. It already felt like that, like I had that like breakthrough of like, wow, I got through that chaos. I survived it. I thrived in it and I grew from it. And then when our friends moved out, and then we had like so much quiet, we had that quiet, that stillness back in the house. There was like that next layer removed from everything going wrong. Like, cause I see every little thing that felt like it was chaos and going wrong as like a layer. So then that was removed. And then my knee started to get better. It's still kind of like iffy. And now at this point, it's my IT band is just really tight. So I just have to roll it out. But like that kind of went down. My styes in my eyes, they went down. I ended up being able to, by the way, like heal my eyes enough to be able to shoot those weddings. No problem. I still have them and still had them in my eyes, but the swelling in my left eye went way down. But I haven't been able to wear eye makeup since, but that's okay. That's okay. Good thing I really am not a makeup person anyway. So yeah, when the styes in my eyes got way better, oh my gosh, that took a layer off. And I'm just like, wow, like that was so much chaos all at once that I thought I couldn't handle, but I came out of it being so much stronger because now I know that I'm able to flow like water. I know that I can choose to see and problem solve for how it could look like if it were easy. I can find the gratitude along the way, and I know that I can handle way more than I think I can. So I love these challenges in life, and not always in the moment, but I know that they will only make me stronger, more resilient, and will take me and guide me with the lessons that I know I'll need for future problems, if that makes sense. Because life, there will always be problems. There will always be ups and downs. And it's a lot of it is how we choose to see it, right? Is it an opportunity for growth, or is it just, a way for us just to complain more, or, feel like a victim and say, oh, boo-hoo me, like it, that takes away your power. That leaves you powerless. That leaves you blind to the lessons that could be sitting right in front of you for you to have a more effortless and easier life moving forward with those level problems. So yeah, I wanted to share this with you to just encourage you to see those moments in life, whether they're in your business or in your personal life, as an opportunity for growth and as something to get excited about and face it straight on or head on and be like, yeah, I'm here for it and I'm going to learn and I'm going to flow like water. So now I want to, as a closing, invite you to share this episode if it helped you in any way. And if you feel called to share it, because if you're like, oh, this could really help with someone that I know is going through a lot right now. If you're like, oh, I really feel like it'll help them see the light through the trees. I would love it if you would share it either directly to them, like take a screenshot, send it their way, or even better, share it to your Instagram story and just tag me at Sarah Monica Photo. And I would be so excited to reshare it to my story, because then even more people can be like, oh yeah, let me check out what this episode is all about, because hell yes, do I know that shit goes wrong in my life, because we can all relate to that, right? Everything quote unquote going wrong, right? And I know I personally love hearing how others navigate these harder situations and what they learn from it, because it makes me have a perspective shift on how I can handle these types of things moving forward in my own life. So yeah, I would be so grateful if you could share it. I would love to connect with you on Instagram. So make sure to screenshot it, share it to your story, and tag me at Sarah Monica Photo. That's Sarah, no H, Monica with a K. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. I'm so grateful for you, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. Yay! Thank you so much for hanging out with me and tuning into this episode. If you got value out of it, please feel free to message me on Instagram at Sarah Monica Photo. That's Sarah, no H, Monica with a K, Photo, to let me know. I get so freaking energized hearing from others that what I've said has had a positive impact on their lives. Also, make sure to hit subscribe to the Shine and Thrive podcast to never miss an episode. I'm so grateful for you, and I'm sending you all the productive vibes your way so you have the best week ever.